Hello there. I am wearing the dress I made in my last video. If you want to take a look at that video, I actually honestly love this dress so much and I wear it all the time. So it's only been a few weeks since I made that video and I keep grabbing this dress to put on my body. So it was a success and I'm very happy with that. I live in Florida. I've lived in Florida for a while now. I mean, it is Christmas time. And turns out I have an impromptu trip coming up to Manhattan. And I literally have no winter coat. I actually, at this point, my last winter coat that I made has finally seen its last days. In fact, let me just show it to you. This coat used to be just the envy of the town. This fabric, it was the thickest wool. Like, I mean, it was so thick. I made this coat when I was living in New York City. I wanted the thickest, fattest wool that was going to keep me super warm. And it did. It did its job for years and years on end. I used to get so many compliments on this coat. Everyone loved it. People couldn't decide if these were cat heads or chickens or clouds or polka dots. I mean, people had lots of comments on it. I've had this coat for so long now that it finally has absolutely, it's threadbare. There is absolutely no warmth or thickness left. I use this crazy thick lining. This is a brocade type of fabric that has zero give. It was a really strange decision to put these two together, but somehow it really was the ticket. I gave it to actors as a warming coat for a lot of years. I mean, I have pictures of so many actors and actresses wearing this coat. And so I am hoping that I can replicate this. But of course, I am not currently in Manhattan, so I don't currently have fabric to choose from. Oh, and it also lost a sleeve at one point, like the line. Like this coat is really, it's seen so many better days. But what I'd like to do is try to replicate it. I have the pattern that I use. It is a vintage, a new vintage pattern. The original is this, and then I like how this girl, she kind of looks like me a little bit, style there, but it's a big swing coat. I went to Goodwill and I found a comforter and I thought, all right, I'll make a coat out of a comforter because I mean, you know, it's thick and it's just, what is a comforter if not a big fat coat? As I was trying on these comforters in the store, and I'll tell you, a friend of mine went with me and it was really funny because I'm just sitting there with wrapped up in comforters standing in front of the mirror while everyone else at Goodwill is actually just trying to buy clothes and trying them on. So that was a lot of fun watching these people watch me and have her be a part of it. So thank you, Heather. Shout out to you for putting up with me. So I'll show you the one that I bought. It's this one. So I was thinking of making a coat out of this. And I do really love this fabric pattern, but I don't love it for a coat because a lot of the clothes that I own, I don't think are going to actually go with this very well. So then I thought to myself, you know, I have a duvet cover, a comforter cover that I had on my own bed for a while, and I just stopped using it because my color scheme changed. But I actually have this. And I actually think this would make a really cute coat. And I kind of love the fact that it's kind of also still black and white. I mean, it's mostly white and black. But anyways, I really love this as the outer and then this as the inner color. Kind of, again, like my original coat where I've got the floral pattern and the black and white. So I'm going to see if I can't make myself a coat out of a comforter. This is, I've never done this before, ever, and it is a challenge. And hopefully it's not too thick, but yeah, I have to do a lot of work here. So would you like to come watch me build a coat so I can wear it in a couple of weeks when I'm in Manhattan? I hope you do, and I hope it turns out, and I'm really excited to get started on it. And I think, yeah, that's where we're at. I don't really need to discuss these steps, I don't think. I'm just gonna go ahead and start, and we'll discuss it in the edits. Oh, wish me luck. So the first thing I did is took my original coat and put it on my dress form So I knew what I was going to follow as I pulled out these pieces. So I'm pulling out the pieces and I'm looking it over and I'm just thinking, that collar does not look like the collar of the coat in the picture. But I do alter everything I make. I don't follow patterns very closely. And I thought, well, maybe it's still the same one and I just changed it up. I do realize later on that this is truly not the same one, but I was stumped at first. Pulled out the pieces and make sure they're all there. Whatever I made with this, because I have made this before, it was a size 12. That's what I cut out. I had a shorter sleeve on there. So there's actually pieces that had a longer sleeve. So I'm really excited because I have very long arms. And one of my biggest pet peeves with coats and sweaters is that the arms are usually pretty short. So I was really happy I found a longer arm to put on this. All right, now I've got my duvet cover out. There's not a lot of fabric here. There aren't a lot of pieces, but the fabric itself is I used all of it. So I had to make sure that all of my hearts lined up just so. It's kind of a little bit nerve-wracking not knowing if I cut everything out in the exact way I wanted it. Anyway, moving on to the comforter. There's stitches going down the comforter, which I'm calling quilting stitches. I don't know if I'm using the term correct, but I made sure when I placed this on there that each one of these pieces had a stitch running through it because I figured it would actually hold these pieces together. And boy, was I right. I'm so glad I did that step. I will tell you though, oh, this was exhausting cutting out. So I was really tired. I know how those people have those electronic scissors. I really wish I had them at that time. I'm still trying again to see if this is the right piece. I do realize in 2 seconds that this is not the correct pattern. And so I'm just looking it over and not the right one. Okay, so I'm just laying these pieces out, just trying to see what needs to be constructed. I went ahead and cut out the top and bottom layer of my original duvet cover to make one layer. I'm really glad I did. The hearts are a little bit see-through, and so I wanted to make sure that this was a thick coat, that it was going to be wind resistant, and that the inside comforter wasn't going to be seen. So every single piece is going to be double layered. Now here's the deal. This was exceptionally wrinkled because it was a duvet cover, and I actually washed it and then just stored it. These wrinkles are permanent. I originally tried starting out with just my handheld steamer. I don't have a full steamer on me at this location. I've had so many in my past. In fact, I might have 2 full steamers at my mom's house. So I went ahead and realized I had a water bottle in my kit. Oh my gosh, I had this empty water bottle in my kit from when I worked on movies that I carried around for years on end. And I just remembered I had it with me. And so I just would douse these pieces in water and then just put the iron on at the highest setting. And so the majority of the work here is actually just ironing. If I had a proper steamer, this probably would have taken minutes, but this took hours of my day. Now, those are the 2 back panels that I am putting together. And the cool thing is they were attached at the top. I had left that extra attached part when I was cutting these out. One of the glorious parts of making things out of other things is little accents like that. So I didn't have to keep realigning that back panel. I could just put them together and stitch them up. I went through a lot of thread on this one. I went through 4 spools of white thread, which is more than I've really ever used on a single project. But these layers got really thick, so it was necessary to go through that much thread. I also went through, I think, 6 to 10 needles. Sadly, between the quilting and putting a lot of pins in there and having the pins catch, it was a lot of needles. And I did change out my needles for the thickness, but it just wasn't enough. It was really hard pushing the stuff through. One other thing I just want to address as I watch this back, I noticed that the back looks like it's almost yellowed a little bit, but it's not. That's actually just worn out. There's only one spot on my bed that I would lay on top of my comforter. And so just over time, that one spot got worn through. But you know, that's what it happens with thrifted items or Goodwill or even your own personal items. I love to upcycle. It's the back of the jacket, and the back of the jacket's going to get grimy on its own as I'm riding the subway or walking around. And so Just so you know, I know it's right there, but again, it's just a worn out spot and there's nothing I could do. And I would so much rather recycle clothing than to buy it brand new and have it wear out anyway. Oddly enough, though, it's actually only on camera that I noticed it was even worn out because in person, it's really not even that bad. So I do apologize if you wouldn't have noticed, but I'm just keep watching it and I do notice and thought I better address it. So you know that I know that you now know. Anyway, back to the coat. This is a really easy coat to make. Stitch up the back and then stitch the arms up the top and stitch the arm to the back and then the arm to the front. And then you stitch under the arm and under the coat, the front and back together. And then I went ahead and made sure I reinforced these stitches and pressed the seams open, and I tried it on after every single step. I wanted to be as precise as possible because, again, this is a coat on top of a coat. And I wasn't quite sure what I was making at the time. But I think that there was a lot of forgiveness in this particular pattern because I really didn't have to go through and make any alterations. I really didn't. A lot of times I have to go back and forth and back and forth. This one, I just stitched it up and made the thing. And now it's time to make the front panels. It had me put a dart in there so that I could actually wrap that neck piece around the neck. I'm not even that big a fan of making darts, and this dart was exceptionally easy. There really was no additional steps needed. I think that this is truly a fabulous coat to make if you ever wanted to make this coat. I'm trying it on again. Haven't stitched up the arms yet, but again, I just wanted to check out every step along the way. All right, it's time to make one arm. Try it on. Yay. This is really roomy. Again, that is just such by luck, by chance that I made this particular size because I'm putting an entire coat underneath this coat. I'm just really grateful that it was as roomy as it was. There it is with both sleeves. I haven't attached the back yet, but I got to do a little runway show here. And spin. Ta-da. Okay. Stitching up the back piece. All right, so time to do the facing. This is going to be the part that goes on the inside and flips around. Now, the original pattern only just had inner facing in there, and obviously I'm putting a fully lined coat underneath it. So I decided to take the batting from the comforter and put that on the inside of this layer, which was not a part of the original plan, obviously. So I had to decide how I was going to put this together. And I'm just sitting there thinking, can I just stitch directly onto that batting? And of course, that would have been a horrible decision. So I'm just making sure that I fluff out this piece because I didn't quite get it cut to the exact right size, but that's okay because it was thick enough that I could just pull on it. So now I'm cutting out the second one. And then I'm going to cut out a piece of fabric to go on the inside. And this is the inside, inside, inside. So it doesn't matter the color because one side is that pink and the other side is the floral, but you'll never see it. And so I just went ahead and just cut it out once. And then I pinned a couple of pins in there as I want to do, and I stitched it up and went, oh no, this is a terrible idea. This particular piece needed lots and lots and lots of pins. It needed me to press it, pin it, make sure everything is aligned properly, because when I threw that through the machine, it would snag and catch that fabric, and then it distorted the size of it. And that bottom piece was so short when I cut it out and stitched it the first time. So this particular project, the theme is pins, pins and ironing. I really had to make sure that I put tons of pins in there so that nothing snagged or grabbed wrong. But I am also really grateful that I put the comforter on the inside of this coat and made the duvet cover the outside, because I've never stitched on this fabric or with the batting on the inside before. It would pucker and grab even though it was still the right size and shape. I would have probably been really disappointed in the outcome if that was the original coat because it just puckered in different spots. But because I have that full swing coat over top of it, it's just smooth and silky. And I'm just so grateful because I think I would have disappointed and probably would have scrapped the project. So now I'm stitching those two pieces in there, getting all those pins back out and trying it on for the very first time. There's a hole in the back because there's a neck facing piece that goes in there at the end. But I'm trying it on for the very first time, and this is the first time that it's got the batting in there. I'm trying to decide if this is going to be a thing, and look, It is. I'm so happy. I am truly happy because that was a step I had to add on my own. And that is the neck facing piece that I decided I'm going to go ahead and put in at the very end. I decided it's probably time to just start making this internal coat. Knowing that I had to pin this all the way around and all the way through and then press it, it was much easier to push through the machine, but it's still very thick, thick fabric. So again, it's having me put those arms together, stitch the back, then the arms, and then the arms go to the front, and then I stitch underneath. So I'm just building a second coat essentially, same steps as the first one. And I'm putting a lot of extra stitches in there that you don't see on camera. I secured this, and after I stitched it, made sure that it was the right size. And then I cut out the fullness, and then I put another stitch in there. So you don't really see me doing that, but I did. And now, again, because I had a stitch going through each of these pieces, they were so much easier to keep together. Again, it was just a last second decision when I was putting this together, and it truly was my favorite decision. And kudos to me because you see those extra reinforcement stitches in there that I just have. Otherwise, these pieces would have been such a pain in the rear end to try to keep them aligned and matched up. So I had to make sure that all the layers are in there and that nothing got snagged inside of it and that the outer layer made its way all the way through. And so I'm just aligning it up, pressing it out, and then trimming the excess. But this was actually a really quick stitch also. I mean, I was a little bit trying, but other than that, this was a dream to put together. There's very little alterations that I had to do. I had to do some alterations on the second day just to how I wanted to finish the cuffs and how I wanted to finish the bottom. I mean, I had to think about how I wanted the collar to look, but these steps were just easy. They're quick and easy, and nothing had to be pulled apart and restitched, except for when I first started and I had to make sure that I was really accurate with my pins. Oh, I hate pushing these things through. I would wince every time a pin went over, because I'd break my my needles because they would catch, but it was a necessary step. It kind of reminds me of when you make balloon animals. I don't know if you've ever made a balloon animal, but every time you twist it and you're just waiting for it to pop, it's the same feeling waiting for those pins to go through the machine because, I couldn't just sit there and take them all out one at a time. Sometimes I did, but for the most part, I just trusted it and pushed it through. Oh, and this coat is getting so thick. There was so much coat in my lap as I'm trying to go through and make this. And it's just got really struggle bus in there after a while. Okay, I think I'm finally have a coat. Trimming out that bottom, and then I'll get that last piece attached. Oh my gosh, so much coat in my lap at this point. This is truly a very heavy, heavy coat because I'm holding onto an entire comforter here. And so now I'm getting ready to put this on my body and see what it's going to look like. First of all, let's see what it looks like if I had made this other coat as my coat. I don't hate it. It's still pretty cute. But the majority of my winter clothes are reddish in color, and this would have been a nightmare. Wearing a plaid pair of pants with that coat, I would have looked crazy. All right, try it on for the first time. Oh, I'm finally realizing that this is going to work. Yay, look at that. I was a little concerned at times that this was looking like a bathrobe, but I figured I had to trust the process. The fullness will come through, and once you put on those final touches, it'll be fine. So now I'm putting the the outer coat to the inner coat on the sides and trying this on for the first time combined on one side. Oh, went through the wrong hole. Trying to figure out where the armhole is. And got it on. And look, there it is. Oh, I am really happy. Oh, I think it's really cute. Kind of reminds me of a Betsy Johnson coat. It's just kind of loud but quiet at the same time, just kind of a really cool graffiti statement piece. All right, so now it's time to put that second side on. And this got easier and easier as I went because I knew what I was doing. I had to put lots of pins in there, make sure all the layers came through, and then just stitched it up. Took my time, made it through. Oh, and this heavy, heavy coat all day, taking it on, taking it off all day. It was starting to really physically weigh on me. and mentally weigh on me as I'm putting this on. Oh, I could just see the despair in my eyes. I'm like, ugh. All right, got it on and just looking it over. Yay, look at that. Did a spin on the inside. Yay. All right, so it's the second day now, and this is the neck facing that I have to put on the back. Again, it only wanted me to put inner facing in there, but I knew I had to make 2 layers. The outside layer is just going to be the fabric, and then the inside layer is going to have the batting. So I went ahead and made that. This one I'm just figuring out how these pieces are going to go. This one's probably the trickiest little piece to put on there because again, this is not how it was intended. There's that piece. And so I had to first stitch up the inner part. And this was a little tricky because it was so tiny and everything could just catch really easily. So again, just ironing things out, steaming things out can take bulk away. That is your friend. It can just smush all those layers down. So now I'm just putting that together. And also, it didn't lay the way I think it's supposed to lay. Because again, I don't know, these are the parts that I dread the most, these tiny little intricate rounded pieces. So I went ahead and just took my time and pinned it in there and tried it on and looked it over and tried to pull the fullness out the way that I felt that it should go and stitched that up. And then again, pulling things through the outer layers to make this. There was a lot of how does this construct if I actually take the layer out and put the layer back in. And there was a lot of flipping in and out of that. But it's getting really tricky at this point. But oh, and this is when I'm like, I need pockets. I decided that after the fact. Now this pattern came with pockets. I just tend to get lazy and I didn't put the pockets in, so I did it after the fact, which I don't recommend, but it still was fine and it worked out. And again, I took my time putting this part together and I just pulled that fullness through, tried it on my body to make sure I didn't want to have to stitch this more than once. That would have been a nightmare. And then I stitched this down, got the threads out and steamed it out. Again, steaming things really helps just change the shape of things if they're not participating as they should. So again, I'm steaming out those cuffs. So the cuffs were a little difficult because I just didn't know how I was going to finish out the sleeve. I didn't follow the pattern. At this point, I'm making my own thing, but I really didn't have a whole lot of fabric left. This is like all the fabric I had in the world. So I had to stitch up 4 pieces together. I put the cuff on and I was not quite sure, second guessing. I'm like, do I want it to be that or should I make a different fabric? So I had some black fabric. I'm like, does that look good? And I'm like, I made it kind of like a ski jacket, but I wasn't feeling it. I'm like, nah. I went back to the original cuff. So I made this cuff super long so that I could actually flip it in and then roll it up and then stitch in the ditch from the outside so that the inside was all secure inside there. And so it was all sealed up. I was pretty happy with that pattern. I matched it again. So here I am making the second one. Again, having to just use the last remnants of fabric I had left in the world, stitching that up, and then placing that on the inside, making sure it's the same size as the other one, the same width and length, and then pulling it through, rolling it up, and then stitching it up. And there we go. I have my arms. Oh, I'm getting to the finish line. Yay! Look at my arms. Make sure I like them. All right, so now I'm steaming this out to put the bottom on. I had horsehair laying around. I'd seen before that this is really great for making dresses to make them just sit down because it's nice and heavy and stiff. I actually never end up using it. So now I'm trying to decide if I'm going to stitch it to the inside, the outside, how is this going to flip up? And finally, I don't have to use pins. I just went ahead and stitched this all the way around. I just unraveled it, stitched it, and then cut the last bit off. I put it on, tucked it under, and it worked. Oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it. It worked. It was perfect. This is a one and done. I really didn't have to do any altering to it. So now I'm going to attach that horsehair to the other side. So because it'll be fine that it hangs a little bit because I wanted the inside layer obviously to be shorter than the outside layer, but I wanted there to be a little bit of overhang and some give to it so that it stayed nice and tucked under and didn't affect the outside of the coat. So I'm just going through and pinning it and pulling all the fullness, making sure that it didn't pucker anywhere. I'm just I just took an attempt at this. I left the outside open on the front. I made the front panel open so I could pull this all the way back through when I was done. And again, I'm just shocked this worked. I stitched it once, I flipped it over and it worked. I'm really, really happy. I've never done this before with that material, but ooh, pulling this through is such a hassle. And at this point it's pretty much a full comforter pulling that through. And there it is. And it worked. So now I'm just pinning those front panels to the coat. I'm just going to put a stitch at the bottom in the front panels. It's fine because those pieces are twice as thick because they folded over with the facing. And there it is. There's that horsehair under there. Yay! Once again, I'm just shocked and relieved. Look at that. It's perfect. Yay! All right, so the next step was the collar. I did not love that collar. It was too puffy, just sitting up too tall, and it was adding to the bathrobiness of this. But because of the batting inside and the different layers being so soft, I was able to actually manipulate this down and take it halfway down. And I'm really happy that I was able to do this because I didn't want to ruin this this coat. But I started by just manipulating it and just pressing it down with my hands. And then I used the steamer to physically make sure that it was pressed all the way down and just kept on manipulating that to make sure that that collar was the way I wanted it to be. And I'm really happy that it was actually working. So the next step from there, I pinned strategically onto this collar in a way that I could actually just stitch in the ditch. I could stitch on stitches that already were pre-existing. So I'm pressing that and then finding the stitches that I've already made. So the outside's not going to look any different and it's not going to be affected on the inside when I go and place this on my body. So just using the steamer, trying it on and, isn't that much better? Oh, I love this collar. Took my hair back down. Oh, yes. Now it's sophisticato. Oops, can't see me. But I stitched those back in and I love it. Okay, it's time for some pockets. Here we go. Trying to figure out where in my body I want to place them. I'm just going to open up a seam and place them on there. I highly don't recommend this as the last step because the coat is already finished. But I had a pocket, as I said, from the original. But this original pocket didn't have a flap because it was a different kind of pocket where the flap's on the outside. So I had to alter the way that I cut this. I added an extra flap on the outside where the pocket's going to go ahead and attach to the seam. So I had to cut this a little bit differently from the original, but that's okay. And I also am thinking on it and I decided I wanted to have 4 layers because these sateen layers are soft and I want to make sure it was a nice structured pocket and it wouldn't rip or stretch. So I'm just going ahead and cutting out all of my little pockets. So there's 8 layers essentially that I'm cutting out. And then from there, just cleaning them up, flipping out, making sure that the right sides are together. And again, still thinking on it. I stitched all the way around and then I secured the corners to make sure, again, it doesn't pull. There's my little oven mitt. I opened up that seam and then I just started attaching the pocket in there. I liked the placement. Oh, is it hard to stitch up though? This was getting really complicated because I couldn't catch any of the fabric and I have an entire coat in my lap and I'm just having like an inch worth of fabric I need to pull through there. But it worked out and now I'm doing the second one. I'm just trimming it out and I secured those corners. So again, it doesn't pull. I opened up that pocket, placed it in there. And I'm just stitching that last little bit up. That's the last thing I did on the day, I think. I was a little tired. Here I am just like a gangster. I'm not even trying to be cute. I'm just like, all right, here it is. You like it? Look, I got pockets chewing my gum. Okay, it's day 3. This is one of the outfits that I plan on wearing when I'm in New York City. I've got my Air Force One boots. Honestly, have you ever seen anything like them? I love these things. I did just see somewhere that said that old people wear Air Force Ones. Well, I don't know about this particular pair with these bungees. I don't know any old people wearing those. And then these pants, I made these pants as well. again, out of a wool, and they're so soft. These are not your typical wool. These are so incredibly stretchy and soft. Again, have been wearing them for years and years and years. When I work on movie sets and it's in the middle of winter and we're outside shooting, I just didn't mess around with cold. I was the costume designer. I'm out there. I looked at the weather report and everyone would come to me for a coat. All the cast and crew after a while would be asking for everything I own to try to stay warm. And then I've got this beautiful hat that I also bought. I was on a job. We're working on an outdoor set. It was freezing cold. I literally on my lunch break walked into a shop in Manhattan and bought this hat with my entire paycheck. It's my Sex and the City shoes moment buying this hat. It is just absolutely weatherproof. But let's go ahead and talk about my coat. The last step was how I'm going to close it. I just didn't want to put buttonholes and buttons in there because I was just scared that I might mess it up at the last minute. So I decided to go out and buy a brooch. So I went on Amazon, I found a brooch, and let me put my coat on. But first, let's do a little walkthrough with my coat open. This coat brings me so much joy. I'm going to be wearing such heavy layers. I'm not even sure it's going to need to be closed ever. But if I did, how cute is that? Like, so it's just pretty cute just sitting there inconspicuously on its own. No one's going to really think twice about it being there. But again, if I want to close this up, I figure I'll just pop this brooch open. And honestly, it doesn't take much more than that to keep this closed because the layers are thick and they do actually hang down with that horsehair down there. Like it's heavy. And so I don't think I'm going to need much more help than that keeping this closed. And that way, it doesn't matter which way it closes or how it swings through. It'll be nice and cozy. And that way I don't have to put any holes in this. And I really do think this brooch is cute. Now you're asking me, Missy, this coat is so thick. How is that brooch going to hold it closed? I'll tell you how. I accidentally bought the world's thickest safety pins in the history of the world. These do not break. They do not bend and they do not break. So I just took my little brooch and I replaced the back because the original bent right in half, but this is not going anywhere. So now it works and it'll be just fine. And in the meantime, it's just gonna be really cute just sitting there. And just before I have a heat stroke, I'll just discuss the final steps up close and personal. I really love how that quilting pattern came through. I did that again so it stays secure when I was stitching it up, but it actually just makes it look like a professional coat, to be honest. And then up close and personal of the collar inside, doesn't look neither here nor there. The outside, again, same thing because I did all my stitches in the ditches. And then the sleeves, I didn't explain it too well the first time around. I did stitch the outside to the inside and then I flipped it over and rounded it out and then stitched again to secure this part here, but also it's stitched in the ditch so there weren't extra stitches on that. One of my most shocking and favorite things, of course, is this horsehair. So it's gathered really nice. It doesn't bunch. When I attached the outside layer to the horsehair and then I flipped the coat inside out and attached this last bit in there, I just honestly didn't expect it to really settle in so well. Because this is so stiff, this is just sitting on there and like the extra, this thickness of horsehair is within here and here. I'm just, again, so excited that that worked out. That's truly just one of my favorite steps. Last but not least, the pockets. Maybe it wasn't such a bad thing that I had to put the pocket in last because I put them exactly where I wanted them. But what I did is I stitched them on the inside. So I stitched here and then I went ahead and put an extra stitch in there. So it's a double layer there. And there is a security stitch on both top and bottom. So this is not going to tear. The seam's not going to open up. So yeah, that is literally all of it. So thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll let you know how it goes in New York. And because I honestly don't even know what temperature this comforter was for. So we'll find out how it goes, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching.